The rain came pouring down in sheets, relentless and heavy, turning the streets of Willow Creek into a chaotic blend of rushing water and splashing feet. The sky, an endless blanket of gray, seemed to press down on the town, muffling sounds and casting everything in a quiet, almost eerie light. It was just another ordinary afternoon for the people of Willow Creek, except for one small detail. Lily Thompson, a 4-year-old girl in her bright yellow raincoat, was about to change the course of this rainy day.
Lily Lovetzerein.
While most children sought shelter indoors, she danced in the puddles, her laughter ringing out as if she were part of the storm itself. She had always found comfort in the rain's soothing rhythm, the cool drops sliding off her jacket and gliding down her cheeks. Today, however, the storm felt different, heavier somehow, as if it were setting the stage for something important.
Lily, stay close. It's dangerous out here, came a voice behind her.
It was her older brother, Ethan Thompson, 16 years old, with his dark hair matted against his forehead, running toward her. His voice was tinged with concern as he reached out to pull her closer to the safety of the sidewalk. But Lily, in her bright yellow raincoat, stepped forward with a determined look in her big, curious eyes.
I'm fine, Ethan.
The rain doesn't scare me, she said, puffing out her chest and twirling around like a ballerina, water splashing up all around her. Ethan rolled his eyes, a fond smile tugging at his lips.
You're crazy, you know that?
One of these days, you're going to get sick.
I won't, Lily giggled. I'm invincible.
Ethan, though protective, couldn't help but laugh. Lily had always been the one to remind him not to take life too seriously, even in the midst of a storm. He knew she had a heart full of adventure, but he also knew she wasn't prepared for the surprise that was about to come. Suddenly, as they walked along the flooded sidewalk, a faint sound reached Lily's ears, faint but distinct like a whimper. She stopped in her tracks and squinted through the rain. "Did you hear that, Ethan?" she asked, her voice small, but sharp with curiosity. Ethan furrowed his brow. "Hear what?" Lily, stepping forward with a furrowed brow, pointed towards the storm drain at the edge of the street. The gutter was filled with water, but something about it caught her attention. "It's coming from there," she said. Ethan followed her gaze, but saw nothing unusual. "There's nothing there, Lily. It's just the rain playing tricks on you." But Lily's instincts told her otherwise. She approached the drain cautiously, her tiny footsteps almost drowned by the thunderous downpour. She bent down to peer into the gutter, her eyes widening as she saw the source of the sound. There, trapped in the flooded drain, was a dog, a large German shepherd, struggling to free itself from the debris lodged in the water. Its brown and black fur was matted with dirt, and its eyes, wide with panic, seemed to look right into Lily's heart. Lily gasped.
"Oh my gosh. Ethan, look.
There's a dog in there," she cried, her voice filled with urgency. Ethan immediately knelt beside her, but he hesitated.
"Lily, it's dangerous.
That water's rising fast, and that dog's stuck deep. We need to call Dad or someone for help." But Lily wasn't listening. She was already kneeling down and reaching her small arms into the water. "We can't just leave him, Ethan. He's stuck, and we have to help him." Ethan reached out, grabbing her by the shoulders. "Lily, stop. It's too dangerous. We can't get him out like this." But Lily shook her head firmly, her heart set on helping the dog. "I'm going to help him, Ethan. I won't leave him here." Her words were soft but determined, and in that moment, Ethan realized there was no stopping her. He stood up quickly, glancing around. "I'll try to find someone."
Just stay here with the dog, okay?"
Lily nodded, but as she turned back to the drain, she saw the dog's eyes again, eyes full of pain, desperation, and an unspoken plea for help. She couldn't walk away. "I'll help you," she whispered softly to the dog, her voice barely audible over the rain. Suddenly, the dog's ears perked up as if it understood her words, and it tried to move its body, its tail wagging weakly in response. That small movement was all it took to break Lily's heart wide open. Just then, a voice rang out from behind them, sharp and commanding. "What are you two doing here?" Lily spun around to see a figure approaching, a local officer, Daniel Carter, who had been patrolling the area and was now rushing towards them through the rain. The officer took in the scene quickly. "What happened? Is that dog hurt?" Lily nodded, her voice trembling with emotion. "He's stuck in the drain. I need to help him." Officer Carter looked down at Lily, his face softening. "All right, we'll get him out," don't worry. But we need to do this safely, okay?
You stay back.
Ethan stepped forward, frustration evident on his face. We've tried. He's stuck too deep. We need more help. The officer nodded, his demeanor serious.
Il handle this.
Stay close and keep calm. Lily clung to the officer's words, watching anxiously as he knelt by the drain and started carefully examining the situation. Hold on, buddy, Officer Carter muttered as he worked swiftly, his training kicking in. As the officer carefully worked to free the dog, Lily knelt by his side, never once taking her eyes off the German shepherd. She could see the fear in his eyes, but also a flicker of trust. Somehow, they were connected, even though they had just met. Lily, Ethan said softly, placing a hand on her shoulder. You really think we can save him? Lily didn't answer at first. She just stared at the dog, whose eyes locked onto hers with a quiet understanding. We have to, she finally whispered. He's not alone. We can help him. And in that moment, as the rain continued to pour down, Lily Thompson knew that she was going to do everything she could to save the dog, no matter what it took. The rain showed no sign of letting up, and as Officer Daniel Carter continued to work at the drain, his hands were growing numb from the cold water and the rising pressure of the situation. His brow furrowed as he examined the debris more closely. The dog, Max, was still trying to wriggle free, but the more he struggled, the more tangled he became in the muck and branches. Lily remained kneeling by the drain, her small hands clasped tightly together, her face set in a look of determination. She kept her eyes locked on Max, offering him silent encouragement, as if her presence alone could give him strength. We're not giving up, Max, she whispered to the dog, her voice barely audible over the downpour. We'll get you out. Ethan, pacing back and forth behind them, couldn't hide his growing anxiety. Officer Carter, this is taking too long. The water's rising quickly. We need to hurry. The officer glanced over his shoulder, his expression serious.
No, son.
I'm doing my best. This is a tricky situation. We can't rush it and risk injuring the dog more. Ethan clenched his fists, frustration boiling inside him. But what if it's too late? What if he doesn't make it? Lily turned to her brother, her face set with a quiet resolve that seemed far beyond her years. He will, Ethan. I know he will. Officer Carter paused, taking a deep breath. Lily's right, he said quietly, his eyes meeting hers. You're doing a good job, kid. He's a strong dog, and with some patience, we'll get him out. Lily's heart fluttered at the officer's words. She felt a little more hopeful, a little more confident. Thank you, Officer Carter, she said, her voice steady but soft. The officer nodded and then turned back to the drain, pulling out a heavy metal rod he'd brought from his patrol car. He carefully poked and prodded around the debris, trying to loosen the objects blocking the way. The rain continued to fall, but it seemed almost as if the world had slowed down, every second dragging on as Max struggled with each labored breath. Max whimpered, a low, painful sound, and Lily felt her heart shatter. She reached out, gently stroking the side of the dog's face. It's okay, Max, she murmured.
Vivantly you.
The officer worked in silence for a few more moments, before finally pausing to assess the situation. I'm going to need some extra help to lift him out of here. The drain's too narrow for me to pull him out on my own. Ethan immediately jumped to action, his earlier frustration now replaced with a sense of urgency. I'll go get Dad or anyone nearby who can help. Be quick, Officer Carter called after him.
And don't go too far, okay?
We can't risk the dog getting any more water in his lungs. Ethan nodded and ran off down the street, his figure quickly disappearing in the pouring rain. Lily stayed by Max, still holding on to him, whispering quiet reassurances. As time stretched on, Officer Carter continued working with the rod, and Lily never left Max's side. Finally, a loud scraping sound broke the silence. The officer's eyes lit up. I think we've got it, he called out. I just need to lift the debris now. Lily's heart skipped a beat. Please, she whispered to herself, her eyes brimming with tears. Please don't let him give up. With one last effort, Officer Carter gave a mighty heave, and Max's body began to move. The dog let out a soft yelp as he was pulled from the drain, but he wasn't fully out yet. Officer Carter and Lily worked together to drag him to safety, with the officer lifting Max's back end while Lily supported his head, keeping the dog calm as they pulled him from the cold water. When Max was finally free, they both collapsed onto the sidewalk, exhausted but relieved. The German shepherd lay motionless for a moment, but his eyes, those deep brown eyes, slowly fluttered open. They were full of pain, but also gratitude. Lily's heart swelled as she looked at the dog. "You're okay now, Max," she whispered softly, her fingers gently brushing his fur. "You're safe." Officer Carter knelt down beside them, his breath heavy. "He's a lucky dog. You're a real trooper, kid." Lily smiled at the officer, her tears mixing with the rain on her face. "I couldn't leave him," she said simply, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Just then, Ethan came rushing back, out of breath and soaked to the bone. "What happened? Did you get him out?" Lily nodded, her voice full of pride. "We did it, Ethan. We saved him." Ethan's eyes widened in disbelief as he dropped to his knees beside them. "He's alive." "Alive and well," Officer Carter replied, glancing at Max. "This dog's been through a lot, but he's got a fighting spirit. I've seen it before in K9s. Lily reached out and gently patted Max's head. The dog licked her hand weakly, his tail giving a faint wag. Despite the exhaustion in his eyes, there was a spark of life that seemed to return with each passing moment. Officer Carter stood up slowly, wiping the rain from his brow. "I've got to take him to the vet and check for injuries. But you kids did the hard part. You saved his life." Lily watched as the officer carefully lifted Max into his arms, cradling him with care. "Thank you for helping him," she said softly, her voice full of emotion. "We all helped," Officer Carter replied with a small smile. "You did more than anyone could have expected, Lily." As the officer walked away, carrying Max towards his patrol car, Lily stood there, drenched and tired, but her heart was lighter than it had been in hours. "We did it," she whispered to herself, a smile spreading across her face. "We really did it." And as the rain began to taper off, a quiet, determined voice inside her knew that this was only the beginning of a bond between her and Max, one that would change both their lives forever. The rain had finally begun to slow, and the storm clouds parted just enough to let a few rays of sunlight peek through, casting a soft glow over the town of Willow Creek. As Officer Carter carefully loaded Max into the back of his patrol car, Lily and Ethan followed closely behind. The air smelled fresh, almost cleansing, but there was an undercurrent of tension. The storm had passed, but a new, unspoken weight hung in the air. Max lay in the back of the patrol car, breathing heavily, but there was a hint of calmness in his eyes now. He was no longer frantic. The worst was over, but it was clear he still needed medical attention. "We'll get him to Dr. Hayes right away," Officer Carter said, glancing at Lily in the rearview mirror. "But you did a great job, Lily. That dog wouldn't have made it out without your quick thinking." Lily's chest swelled with pride at the officer's words. She had done something big, something that mattered. But there was still something else, something about Max that she couldn't shake. The way he looked at her, almost as if he recognized her, almost as if there was a deeper connection between them. "I'm glad we saved him," Lily said softly, her voice full of wonder. "But why was he stuck there? How did he get in the drain?" Ethan, who had been quiet for most of the ride, turned to look out the window. "Yeah, it doesn't make sense. He looks like he's been through a lot, and that drain, it's not somewhere a dog would end up by accident." Officer Carter's face grew more serious, his hands tightening on the steering wheel. "That's something I intend to find out. This isn't just a random stray. Max is a K9 dog. He used to work with the police. His disappearance, it's been a mystery for weeks." Lily's eyes widened in shock. "A police dog? You mean, he was trained to help the police?" "Yes," Officer Carter nodded. "Max was part of a special K9 unit. He was involved in tracking down suspects, sniffing out evidence, the usual. But something happened during a raid, and Max went missing. No one knew what happened to him. The department assumed the worst. He was either lost or abandoned." "But why would someone abandon a dog like that?" Lily asked, her voice thick with confusion. "That's the question, Lily. It doesn't make sense." Officer Carter's voice had a strange edge to it. "There's a lot more to this than we know." Lily's mind raced as she stared at Max in the back seat. If he had been a police dog, why was he abandoned in a drain on a rainy afternoon? Why had he been left alone and hurt? She couldn't understand it. As they reached the vet clinic, Dr. Michelle Hayes was waiting for them, ready to assess Max's condition. The woman, who had seen countless animals in need of help, immediately sprang into action as the officer carried Max into the examination room. "Let's get him checked out, Officer Carter," Dr. Hayes said briskly, lifting Max onto the examination table. Her experienced hands moved quickly, feeling his body for injuries, checking his breathing, and taking note of his overall condition. Lily and Ethan stood outside the room, waiting in silence. The weight of the mystery hung in the air, and Lily couldn't shake the feeling that there was something important she was missing. After what felt like an eternity, Dr. Hayes emerged from the room, her expression grim. "Max is a tough dog," she said, looking at the siblings. "He's been through a lot, but he's stable now. There are a few injuries we'll need to monitor, but it's nothing too severe. He's going to make it." Lily sighed in relief. "That's good. I'm so glad he's okay." "But there's something else," Dr. Hayes continued, her voice quieter now. "When I examined Max, I found something strange." Lily leaned forward, her eyes wide with curiosity. "What is it?" Dr. Hayes hesitated, glancing at Officer Carter before speaking. "Max has a microchip, which isn't unusual for a police dog. But the chip isn't registered in any of our systems. It's different. It's like it was tampered with." Lily's heart skipped a beat. "Tampered with? What does that mean?" "It means," Officer Carter said, stepping forward, "that Max didn't just disappear on his own. Someone intentionally erased his identification. Someone didn't want him to be found." The realization hit Lily like a wave. There was something more going on here, something dark, something dangerous. "But why?" Ethan asked, his voice filled with disbelief. "Why would anyone want to hide Max? He's just a dog." Dr. Hayes exchanged a look with Officer Carter. "This dog isn't just any dog," she said. "Max was involved in a high-profile case. He helped the police uncover crucial evidence in a large-scale drug trafficking operation. After the raid went wrong, Max was separated from his team, and the investigation hit a dead end." Lily's eyes widened. "A drug trafficking operation? You mean Max was part of a big case?" "Yes," Officer Carter said, his tone growing serious. "And now, whoever was involved in that operation is going to want Max back. They know he can expose everything." Lily felt a chill run down her spine. Max hadn't just been abandoned. He had been silenced. But why? What did Max know that could bring down a criminal organization? And who was responsible for erasing his identity? "I don't understand," Lily said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why is all of this happening? He was just doing his job. He was helping people." "That's the problem, Lily," Officer Carter replied, his voice tight. "Max was doing his job. And now, someone wants him out of the picture." Lily's heart pounded in her chest as the gravity of the situation sank in. Max, the dog she had saved just hours ago, was now a key player in a dangerous game, a game far bigger than anything she could have imagined. "Can we protect him?" Lily asked, her voice shaking with determination. Officer Carter nodded. "We'll do everything we can, Lily. But the people who want Max are dangerous. And if we don't act quickly, they might come after him, and after you too." The room fell silent. Lily stared at Max, still recovering on the examination table, his eyes full of trust. She had saved him today, but now it was up to her, Officer Carter, and everyone involved to protect him from the shadows that threatened his life, and the truth he held. The air around the vet clinic felt heavier than ever as Lily, Ethan, and Officer Carter processed the shocking revelations. Max was no longer just the injured dog they had saved from the drain. He was a symbol of a much larger, more dangerous world. A world of crime, corruption, and hidden secrets. As they walked out of the clinic, Officer Carter's face was hard with resolve. "I'll make sure Max is safe," he said, looking at the two siblings. "But we need to stay alert. Whoever is after him won't stop just because we found him." Lily, still processing everything, stayed close to Max, who now lay in a makeshift bed in the back of the officer's patrol car. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, something bigger than just the dog, something that tied everything together. "Who's after him, Officer Carter?" Lily asked, her voice small but filled with determination. "Why would anyone want to hurt Max? He was just trying to help." The officer paused for a moment, his hands gripping the steering wheel of his car. Max was part of an operation targeting a major drug trafficking network. He was close to uncovering a key piece of evidence that could bring the whole network down. But something went wrong during the raid. Max's handler was killed, and Max was separated from the team. We think someone within the organization knew what Max could do and made sure he was erased from the system. Erased? Ethan echoed, his voice filled with disbelief. How could they do that? How could they just erase a police dog's identity? They have connections, Officer Carter said, his voice quiet, almost too quiet. And not just in the criminal world. We believe some of them have ties within the department. That's why this is so dangerous. Lily shuddered at the thought. Her world, once simple and safe, was now filled with secrets and shadows. And Max, the brave dog she had saved, was at the center of it all. Just as the tension in the air thickened, a loud, rapid knock came from the car window, making everyone jump. Officer Carter glanced quickly at Lily and Ethan before rolling the window down. A familiar face peered inside, the town's local detective, Detective Mark Reynolds. His face was tight with urgency, his usual calm demeanor replaced with concern. "We've got a situation," Reynolds said, his voice low. "We've received an anonymous tip. Someone's been asking about Max, no doubt the people who want him gone. We need to move fast." Lily's stomach turned. "What do we do now?" she asked, her voice trembling despite her best efforts to stay calm. "We head to a safe location," Reynolds said decisively. "But we can't stay here too long. They'll be looking for Max, and for you. They know we're getting close to the truth." Max, who had been lying still in the back seat, suddenly lifted his head, his ears perking up. His keen senses were alert, as if he, too, could feel the growing danger. He let out a soft, low growl, staring intently at the rearview mirror. "What's wrong, boy?" Lily whispered, her hand reaching back to comfort him. But Officer Carter didn't seem to be focused on Max anymore. His eyes were fixed ahead, his mind racing with strategies. "Detective, what's the plan?" he asked, his voice steady despite the tense situation. "We need to get Max to a secure location, a place where they can't find us. We'll lay low for a while until we figure out who's behind all this. But first, we need to move quickly." Lily's heart pounded in her chest. Her thoughts were a blur, her mind trying to piece everything together. She couldn't imagine who would want to hurt Max or her family, but everything about the situation screamed danger. This wasn't just about saving a dog anymore. It was about something much bigger, something that could threaten everything they had ever known. As they drove through the rain-soaked streets, the car's headlights cutting through the mist, Lily sat in silence, her thoughts a whirlwind. She glanced at Max in the back seat, who lay quietly, his breathing shallow but steady. He looked at her with those same trusting eyes, the eyes that had saved him from the drain, the eyes that now seemed to hold more than just gratitude. There was something else there, something unspoken, something that Lily was starting to understand. "Do you think Max remembers the case?" Lily asked softly, breaking the silence. Officer Carter's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror, where Max's head had lowered again. "I think Max remembers more than we know," he said quietly. "He's been through a lot, and he knows more than he's letting on. But we need to be careful. The people after him won't hesitate to hurt anyone who gets in their way." Ethan shifted nervously in his seat. "So what do we do now? Just wait for them to find us?" Detective Reynolds shook his head. "We won't just sit and wait. We'll keep moving, gather as much information as we can, and find out who's behind this before they have a chance to act." Suddenly, the quiet sound of a phone vibrating broke through the tension in the car. Officer Carter pulled out his phone and glanced at the screen, his face paling. "It's from dispatch," he muttered, his voice low and grim. "There's been a sighting of someone matching the description of the people we're looking for, right here in Willow Creek. They know we're here." Lily's stomach dropped. "What do we do now?" she whispered, fear creeping into her voice. "We move now," Officer Carter said firmly. "Get ready. We need to keep Max safe." The car sped up, the headlights slicing through the misty darkness ahead. The chase had begun, and Lily knew that there was no turning back. They were no longer just protecting a dog, they were protecting the truth, a truth that someone desperately wanted to keep hidden. As they approached the safe house, Lily turned to Max, her hand resting gently on his head. "We'll protect you," she whispered. "We'll make sure no one can hurt you." Max looked up at her, his eyes full of trust and loyalty. In that moment, Lily knew that no matter what came next, she wasn't alone. Max had become her protector just as much as she had become his. The tension in the car was suffocating as they sped toward the safe house. The rain had picked up again, blurring the road ahead, making everything seem distant and uncertain. Max, lying quietly in the back seat, occasionally looked up, his eyes scanning the surroundings. Lily couldn't help but feel a deep sense of connection to him, a bond forged in a moment of life-or-death courage, now evolving into something far more profound. "Are we safe here?" Lily asked, her voice shaky with fear as she looked at Officer Carter and Detective Reynolds, her eyes filled with questions she wasn't sure she wanted the answers to. Officer Carter glanced out the windshield, his face set in grim determination. "We'll be safe for now. But we have to stay one step ahead of them. Whoever is behind this knows we're closing in." "Why would they go this far for a dog?" Ethan asked, his voice tinged with frustration and disbelief. "What are they hiding?" Detective Reynolds, sitting in the front seat, remained silent for a long moment, his mind clearly working through the possibilities. Finally he spoke, his voice steady but heavy with the weight of the situation. "Max isn't just a dog. He's the key to everything. He was there when the police uncovered the criminal ring. He found evidence that no one else could, and if the wrong people get their hands on him, everything we've worked for could be destroyed." Lily felt a chill at the mention of the wrong people. It was a stark reminder that the danger they were in wasn't just from random criminals. It was a conspiracy, one that ran deep, infecting not just the underworld, but the very heart of the justice system. Her grip tightened on the seat next to her, knowing the stakes were higher than she could have ever imagined. As they neared the safe house, Officer Carter slowed the car, his eyes scanning the area. "Stay alert," he muttered. "We're close." The safe house was an inconspicuous building, tucked away on a quiet street, far from the town's bustling center. It was the perfect place to lie low, unnoticed, secure. But as they approached, Lily's sense of unease grew. Everything seemed too calm, too still. It felt like the calm before the storm. Officer Carter parked the car and glanced at Max, who now lay with his head resting on the back seat, his eyes closed, exhausted but calm. "Stay close to him, Lily. We'll make sure you're safe here." Lily nodded, but her mind was racing. She wanted to know more. What happened to Max? Why was he so important? And most importantly, who could they trust? As they walked toward the front door of the safe house, Lily turned to Ethan, her voice barely above a whisper. "I think Max knows more than he's letting on. I think he knows who's after him." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "How do you figure?" Lily hesitated, glancing back at the German shepherd, who had now lifted his head again. "There's something in his eyes. Every time he looks at me, I feel like he's trying to tell me something. Like he's waiting for us to figure it out." Ethan looked at Max thoughtfully. "Maybe you're right. But right now, we don't have time for guesses. We need answers, and we need them fast." The door of the safe house creaked open, and a woman stepped out, Agent Carla Summers, a high-ranking member of the Special Task Force investigating the trafficking ring. She was in her late 30s, sharp-eyed and efficient, with a no-nonsense air that immediately put everyone on edge. "Officer Carter," Agent Summers greeted, nodding in acknowledgement. "I take it this is Max?" "Yes," Carter replied, his voice tight with the weight of their shared understanding. "We've managed to keep him safe for now, but we don't know how much time we have." "Well, it's time to find out what Max knows," Agent Summers said, her tone firm. She motioned for them to enter the house. "We'll get to the bottom of this. But first, we need to get the information Max has locked in his memory." Inside, the atmosphere was more tense than Lily had ever imagined. The house was sparse, with just enough space to keep them hidden away from prying eyes. Max was immediately led to a secure area, where a team of specialists began setting up equipment to help unlock any memory or information Max might have retained from the case he was involved in. As the team worked, Lily stayed close to Max, her hand gently resting on his head. The dog seemed to relax under her touch, his eyes closing again as if he understood they were now in a safe place. But Lily's heart was heavy with the weight of the unknown. She wanted answers, but part of her was afraid of what they might uncover. After several tense hours, Agent Summers finally approached with a solemn look on her face. "We've got something," she said, her voice barely a whisper. Lily's heart skipped a beat. What is it? Agent Summers hesitated before speaking. Max's memory chip. He still has key fragments of the information he gathered during that raid. There's a trail we can follow, a trail that leads straight to the head of the criminal operation. Lily's mind raced. So, we can finally stop them? Not yet, Agent Summers replied, her voice tinged with caution. But we've got a lead. And with this information, we can take them down. Lily turned to Max, who lay quietly in the corner, his eyes now meeting hers. She could see the gratitude in those eyes, a bond forged not just by the storm, but by the journey they had gone through together. Max had given them the key to stopping a dangerous criminal operation, and now it was their turn to protect him, to keep him safe from the forces that still wanted him silenced. As the team worked to plan their next move, Lily sat beside Max, feeling a profound sense of responsibility. She wasn't just a little girl who had rescued a dog from a storm drain. She was part of something much bigger now, a part of a team fighting to uncover the truth, protect those who couldn't protect themselves, and ensure that justice prevailed. In that moment, Lily knew that no matter what happened next, she would always have Max by her side, and together, they would face whatever came their way. As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden light over the room, Lily whispered softly to the dog she had saved, and who had saved her in return. "We're going to finish this, Max," she said, her voice steady and full of determination. "Together." Max's tail gave a slight wag, as if to say, "I know." And in that moment, with the bond between them stronger than ever, Lily Thompson understood that bravery and loyalty didn't come from size or strength. They came from the heart. And no matter what the future held, they would face it together, stronger than ever before. This story explores the power of courage, compassion, and the unspoken bond between humans and animals. It highlights how even in the darkest moments, small acts of kindness can lead to profound, life-changing results. Lily's bravery and determination to save Max, a retired police dog, prove that no one is too small to make a big difference. The story shows the importance of standing up for what is right, protecting the innocent, and fighting for justice, no matter the odds. The core message of this story is that acts of kindness and compassion can create lasting impacts. It teaches us that even in difficult situations, it's our courage, empathy, and determination that shape the outcome. Every action, no matter how small, contributes to a greater good, and standing up for what's right will always lead to a positive change. Additionally, the story emphasizes the importance of trust and loyalty in relationships, whether between humans or with animals. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and share your thoughts. Let us know how this story touched your heart or made you think differently. And if you want to stay updated with more powerful and meaningful stories like this one, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps us continue creating more content that brings us all closer to the lessons of life. Every like, comment, and share is a huge encouragement for us to keep going. Thank you so much for watching. We truly appreciate your support and interest in our content. Your views and feedback inspire us every day to bring you more stories filled with depth, emotion, and life-changing messages. We hope to see you in our next video. Take care, and keep spreading kindness.